The bright sunlight beat down on West Texas as 17-year-old Mason Cahill adjusted his backpack straps and took a long drink from his water bottle. According to his mother's later statement, he had been planning this solo hike through Big Bend National Park for months, meticulously researching trails and preparing his gear. The date was June 7, 2023. Mason was described by his high school teachers as methodical, intelligent, and experienced in outdoor activities, having completed multiple backpacking trips with his father since the age of 12. His chosen route, documented in the trail registration he completed at the Visitor Center, was a 4-day loop covering approximately 38 miles of moderate to difficult terrain in the Chisos Mountains region. Park Ranger Teresa Alvarez noted in the visitor log that Mason appeared well-equipped and knowledgeable when she briefly spoke with him at 7:43 a.m. before he departed. Weather conditions that morning were optimal for hiking, 72 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies and low humidity, according to National Weather Service records. Mason's final text message to his mother, sent at 9:17 a.m. from a location with GPS coordinates matching the Juniper Canyon Trail entrance, read, "Starting the hike now. Signal will be spotty. Check in when I reach tonight's campsite. Love you." This was the last confirmed communication from Mason Cahill. When Mason failed to check in that evening, his mother, Elaine Cahill, reported feeling mild concern but not alarm, as documented in her initial police statement. Spotty cellular service was expected in the remote regions of the 801,163-acre national park. However, when no communication had been received by the following evening, June 8th, she contacted park authorities at 9:42 p.m. According to the incident report filed by Night Ranger Supervisor Dominic Herrera, a preliminary check was conducted at Mason's designated campsite at the South Rim Primitive Camping Area. The site showed no signs of recent use. A formal search and rescue operation was initiated at first light on June 9, 2023. Temperature records show that morning reached 89 degrees by 10 hours a.m., with humidity dropping to 15%. Search protocols for the Big Bend region dictated use of both aerial and ground teams. Texas Department of Public Safety provided helicopter support with thermal imaging capabilities, while 4 ground teams consisting of NPS rangers and trained volunteers covered the planned route and likely deviation paths. The search area was initially established as a 15-mile radius from Mason's last known coordinates, following standard lost hiker protocols for the terrain type. By June 12th, the search area had expanded to 42 miles and involved 68 personnel from multiple agencies, including Border Patrol agents with tracking expertise and 3 K-9 units specialized in human scent detection. According to the search coordination logs maintained by Incident Commander Rosa Velasquez, teams methodically covered 78% of the high-probability areas where a hiker might become injured or disoriented. Weather conditions during this period remained challenging for search efforts, with daytime temperatures exceeding 95 degrees and minimal cloud cover. Despite the extensive resources deployed, no definitive signs of Mason were located. On June 16th, after 8 days of intensive searching, the operation was officially downgraded from active search to limited continuous status. This designation, as defined in National Park Service Search and Rescue Manual Section 4.3.2, indicates that while dedicated teams are no longer actively deployed, all park personnel remain alert for signs of the missing person during routine duties. An investigation continues. The case remained open but without new leads. Mason's disappearance generated moderate regional media coverage, primarily in Texas news outlets. A dedicated Facebook page created by Elaine Cahill reached approximately 5,400 followers at its peak, but produced no actionable information. Cell phone records obtained through court order confirmed that Mason's device had not connected to any cellular tower after 9:17 a.m. on June 7th, consistent with either power depletion or damage to the device. The seasonal monsoon rains came and went. Tourists continued to visit the park, many unaware that someone had vanished into its vast expanse. Park rangers added Mason's photograph to their training materials. His dental records and DNA sample were entered into national databases for unidentified remains. Search and rescue experts classified his case as a mystery disappearance, one without clear indicators of accident, foul play, or intentional vanishing. Exactly 24 months passed. On June 7, 2025, Ranger Gabriel Martinez was conducting a routine patrol of the lesser-used western sections of the park, approximately 18.3 miles from Mason's planned route. According to his field report, Martinez observed movement in a narrow slot canyon off the Mesa de Anguilla Formation at approximately 3:15 p.m. Believing it might be an injured animal or possibly an undocumented border crosser in distress, he approached cautiously. What Martinez discovered was documented in his radio transmission, recorded by Park Dispatch. Control, this is Ranger Martinez. I believe I've located Mason Cahill. Repeat, possible location of missing person Cahill from 2023. Subject is alive but in extremely altered mental state. Requesting immediate medical evacuation to my GPS coordinates. Subject appears severely dehydrated and malnourished. He appears to be carving or scratching symbols into the sandstone walls. Over. The young man Martinez found bore only partial resemblance to the photographs of Mason Cahill. According to the medical assessment conducted by Park EMT Jessica Wong, the subject presented with extreme malnutrition, estimated weight loss of 60-70 pounds, severe sun exposure resulting in advanced skin damage, and numerous untreated injuries, including improperly healed fractures to the right radius and 3 fingers of the left hand. His clothing was described as deteriorated to fragments, with makeshift coverings fashioned from what appeared to be plant fibers and animal hide of unidentified origin. Most notably, the subject was engaged in what Wong described as compulsive engraving activity, using a sharpened stone tool to carve elaborate geometric patterns into the canyon wall. The pattern covered approximately 15 square feet of sandstone surface and continued around a corner into a narrow section of the canyon. Photographs taken by Ranger Martinez documented symbols arranged in concentric circles, interlocking triangular formations, and repeated sequences of what appeared to be stylized human figures with elongated limbs. The subject did not verbally respond to questions from the rangers, but did not resist when approached. According to Wong's notes, he continued carving with singular focus until the tool was gently removed from his hand. When transported via helicopter to Big Bend Regional Medical Center in Alpine, Texas, the subject carried a small leather pouch containing 37 smooth black stones, each marked with a different symbol that appeared to match elements of the wall carvings. Positive identification was confirmed through fingerprints and DNA comparison with samples on file from the original missing persons report. The recovered individual was indeed Mason Cahill, who had disappeared exactly 2 years earlier. Medical reports from Dr. Eleanor Chen, who supervised Mason's initial treatment, documented severe dehydration, protein deficiency, vitamin D toxicity from extreme sun exposure, and significantly elevated levels of specific stress hormones suggesting prolonged trauma exposure. Most concerning to the medical team was Mason's continued nonverbal state. Despite no evidence of physical trauma to the vocal cords or brain areas associated with speech, Mason did not speak, write, or Mason Schman or otherwise communicate during his first 72 hours under medical care. On the 4th day of hospitalization, Mason began responding to simple yes-no questions with head movements. On the 6th day, according to the nursing log, he wrote a single word on a notepad: beneath. When asked what was beneath, he did not respond, but began drawing the same circular pattern observed in the canyon carvings. Detective Laura Simmons of the Brewster County Sheriff's Department was assigned as lead investigator on the case, which was reclassified from a missing persons investigation to a potential criminal investigation on June 12, 2025. In her preliminary report, Simmons noted, "The physical condition of the recovered victim and his apparent psychological trauma suggest prolonged captivity or imprisonment rather than a survival scenario. The absence of a search area location match with the recovery site, 18.3 miles separation, further suggests possible third-party involvement." Forensic analysis of Mason's recovered possessions yielded several significant findings. The makeshift clothing contained fibers from at least 3 different unidentified sources, including animal hide, that could not be matched to any species native to Big Bend. The stone carving tool showed microscopic traces of at least 8 different mineral compositions, suggesting it had been used on varied surfaces beyond the canyon where he was discovered. Most notably, soil samples from his improvised footwear contained chemical compounds inconsistent with the surface geology of the park, including trace elements typically found only at depths exceeding 300 feet below surface level. Dr. Raymond Okafor, a psychiatrist specializing in trauma recovery, was brought in to evaluate Mason's mental state on June 15th. According to Dr. Okafor's initial assessment, the patient exhibits classic signs of severe dissociative disorder resulting from prolonged psychological trauma. His fixation on symbolic representation through carving and drawing appears to be a communication method developed in the absence of verbal expression. The symbols themselves suggest a systematic rather than random pattern, indicating the patient is attempting to document or record specific information rather than engaging in meaningless, repetitive behavior. On June 18th, Mason spoke his first words since his recovery. Nurse Alicia Dominguez recorded the interaction in her notes. Patient became agitated during routine vital check at 2:17 a.m. When asked if he was in pain, patient stated clearly, "They're still there. The tunnels go deep. The light people don't want you to find it." When asked to clarify who they were, patient returned to nonverbal state. Dr. Okafor was notified. Following this breakthrough, investigators developed a strategy for interviewing Mason that balanced information gathering with psychological safety. Sessions were limited to 20 minutes, conducted in a comfortable setting rather than a formal interview room, and immediately terminated if Mason showed signs of distress. Dr. Okafor remained present throughout all interviews. Through this careful approach, a fragmented narrative began to emerge. According to Detective Simmons' case notes, Mason recalled beginning his hike as planned on June 7, 2023, and following his designated route until approximately noon, when he described discovering a crack in the world. What investigators interpreted as potentially a narrow ravine or crevice, not documented on park maps. Mason's account, as transcribed by Simmons, stated, "I saw light coming from inside the crack. Not sunlight, different, blue-white. I thought maybe hikers or researchers were down there with equipment. I called out, but nobody answered. I decided to check if someone needed help. The opening was narrow, but I could fit through sideways. Inside it opened up. The walls were smooth. Too smooth. Not natural. The light was coming from deeper in. I followed it. That's when the ground wasn't there anymore. I fell, don't know how far. Woke up somewhere else." When asked to describe somewhere else, Mason became agitated and reverted to drawing symbols. Dr. Okafor noted that this pattern of verbal communication followed by retreat to symbolic representation was consistent with traumatic memory processing, where the victim can verbalize contextual memories leading up to traumatic events but struggles to verbally access the traumatic experiences themselves. The investigation took a significant turn on June 23rd, when Elaine Cahill provided investigators with Mason's personal journal, recovered from his bedroom at home. The journal contained detailed notes on Mason's hiking preparations but also included a section titled Research Notes, Mesa de Anguilla Anomalies, with newspaper clippings about unexplained disappearances in the western section of Big Bend dating back to 1978. The final entry, dated June 3, 2023, 4 days before his hike, read, "Triangulated the coordinates from the three incident reports. They form a perfect equilateral triangle centered on a point approximately 2.7 miles west of the Mesa Trail. Nothing marked on official maps at that location. Park rangers I asked claim area is just standard desert terrain. Planning to investigate after completing the Chisos Loop." This evidence suggested Mason may have deliberately gone off trail to investigate this location after his official hike, contradicting the working theory that he had become lost or disoriented on his registered route. Detective Simmons requested authorization for a focused search of the area identified in Mason's notes, which was approved on June 25th. The search team, consisting of 4 park rangers, 2 sheriff's deputies, and geologist Dr. Sophia Winters from Sul Ross State University, deployed to the coordinates on June 27th. According to the operation report filed by Team Leader Ranger Samuel Park, the location appeared unremarkable. A flat, rocky area with sparse vegetation typical of the Chihuahuan desert ecosystem. Ground-penetrating radar was employed to search for any subterranean anomalies, revealing what Dr. Winters initially identified as a potential natural cave system or karst formation approximately 30 meters below the surface. Further investigation revealed a narrow vertical shaft, partially obscured by rockfall, measuring approximately 68 centimeters in diameter, wide enough for a slender adult to pass through. Air quality measurements taken at the opening showed normal oxygen levels, but detected trace amounts of unidentified compounds. Due to safety concerns, the team placed monitoring equipment and surveillance cameras at the site rather than attempting immediate entry. Over the following week, Mason's condition gradually stabilized, allowing for more sustained communication. Working with Dr. Okafor, Mason began filling in details of his experience through a combination of verbal testimony, drawings, and writing. The emerging narrative, while fragmented and sometimes contradictory, suggested Mason had indeed found and entered a vertical shaft similar to the one located by the search team. According to Mason's account, he descended what he estimated to be several hundred feet before reaching a horizontal tunnel with smooth, almost polished walls. He described following this tunnel for hours or maybe days, time perception being notably distorted in his recollection. The tunnel eventually opened into what he described as a huge space, bigger than a football stadium, with a ceiling that glowed blue-white. This is where Mason's testimony became increasingly difficult to reconcile with known physical possibilities. He described encountering others in this cavern, sometimes referring to them as the light people, and other times as the watchers. His descriptions of these entities were inconsistent and often devolved into drawing the same symbols found in the canyon where he was discovered. The most coherent portion of his testimony concerned how he ultimately escaped. After the growing time, when they were all gathered at the center, I found a different tunnel, smaller, rough walls. I followed it up, kept climbing. My hands bled. Don't know how long, days maybe. The tunnel got narrower, could barely breathe. Then I felt air, real air, pushed through into a crack in the rocks. Sunlight hurt my eyes after so long in their light. Found the canyon. Had to record the patterns before I forgot them. Had to warn about what's beneath. On July 3rd, the monitoring equipment at the shaft site recorded unusual temperature fluctuations and intermittent magnetic anomalies. The surveillance camera captured brief footage of what appeared to be a pale blue luminescence emanating from the opening at 2:34 a.m., lasting approximately 8 seconds before dissipating. This evidence prompted Detective Simmons to request additional resources for a more thorough investigation. The Texas Department of Public Safety Special Operations Division deployed their technical unit, equipped with a remote-controlled exploration robot capable of navigating confined spaces. On July 7th, the robot was sent into the shaft with a video feed transmitted to a secure command post. According to the official log, the robot descended 112 feet before the vertical shaft transitioned to a horizontal passage. The passage extended beyond the robot's operational range of 1,500 feet, maintaining a consistent diameter and showing signs of what the technical team described as non-natural uniformity. The walls appeared to have been formed or shaped rather than created by natural geological processes. Most significantly, at approximately 800 feet from the entrance, the robot's cameras captured images of marks on the tunnel walls that bore striking resemblance to the symbols Mason had been carving. The robot also collected material samples that, when analyzed by the DPS laboratory, were found to contain traces of organic compounds not consistent with the known biology of the region. As the investigation expanded, record searches revealed additional information. 3 previous disappearances in Big Bend National Park remained unsolved. Ricardo Vega, 1978, Amelia Richardson, 1997, and David Cho, 2012. All 3 had last been seen in proximity to the Mesa de Anguilla region. Park Service archival documents included a sealed report from 1956 regarding the discovery of unusual geological formations in the western section during a survey for water sources. The report had been classified and removed from public access in 1968 under authorization from the Department of the Interior. On July 15th, as preparations were being made for a human expedition into the shaft, the site monitoring system recorded a series of seismic events beginning at 3:17 a.m. Remote cameras showed the shaft entrance collapsing in what appeared to be a localized earthquake registering 4.2 on the Richter scale. By daybreak, the opening had been completely sealed by tons of rock and soil. Subsequent ground-penetrating radar scans indicated that the collapse extended at least 200 feet below the surface, effectively rendering the tunnel system inaccessible. Mason Cahill's psychological condition continued to improve under Dr. Okafor's care. By August 2025, he was able to maintain regular conversations and had regained approximately 70% of his pre-disappearance body weight. However, he maintained that his experiences were real, not hallucinations or delusions. When informed about the shaft collapse, Mason exhibited what Dr. Okafor described as profound relief and stated, "They've closed it themselves. They don't want anyone else coming down." The investigation reached an impasse. Physical evidence confirmed the existence of an extensive tunnel system beneath the Mesa de Anguilla region, but its origin, whether natural, human-made, or something else, remained undetermined. Mason's testimony suggested either an elaborate delusion resulting from trauma and isolation or an encounter with something beyond current scientific understanding. On September 12, 2025, the Brewster County Sheriff's Department officially classified the case as exceptionally cleared, a designation used when circumstances beyond law enforcement control prevent normal case resolution. The investigative summary noted, "Physical evidence confirms subject Mason Cahill survived in harsh wilderness conditions for an extended period. Evidence suggests he discovered and entered a previously undocumented cave system where he likely experienced injury and psychological trauma. His subsequent disorientation and mental state alterations are consistent with prolonged isolation, sensory deprivation, and survival stress." The subject's more extreme claims regarding entities cannot be verified, but are consistent with known psychological responses to extreme isolation. Mason returned to his family home in El Paso on September 30, 2025. According to Dr. Okafor's final assessment, he would require ongoing therapeutic support but had demonstrated remarkable resilience. Mason enrolled in online courses to complete his high school education and expressed interest in geology and archaeology, fields connected to his experience. What remains unexplained are the symbols. Linguistic analysis by Dr. Irene Vasquez of the University of Texas determined they did not match any known writing system, ancient, or modern. Yet they displayed consistent internal structure, suggesting a true communication system rather than random patterns. The symbols Mason carved in the canyon wall, when fully mapped and analyzed, formed what mathematicians determined was a precise geometric representation of a hypercube, a four-dimensional cube, rendered in three-dimensional space. The black stones found in Mason's possession were determined to be obsidian, a volcanic glass not naturally occurring in the Big Bend region. Trace element analysis indicated the obsidian did not match any known source in North America. The symbols carved into these stones, when arranged in the sequence Mason insisted was correct, created what Dr. Vasquez described as a potential mathematical progression of increasing complexity. To this day, Mason Cahill maintains his silence about certain aspects of his experience. As he stated in his final documented interview with Detective Simmons, "Some things shouldn't be known. Some doors shouldn't be opened. I've told you what I can. The rest is in the symbols for those who need to understand. The light people are watching. They've always been watching. They'll close every door that's found until they decide it's time for us to see." The shaft remains collapsed. The symbols remain undeciphered. Mason Cahill continues to sketch the same patterns in his journal each night before sleeping. And in Big Bend National Park, rangers now avoid certain areas of the Mesa de Anguilla after sunset, particularly on moonless nights when visitors occasionally report seeing a faint blue-white glow emanating from cracks in the ancient sandstone.